Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength disguised as stillness. It is the calmness of the warrior before the battle. It is the unshakable center that no storm can move. Those who misunderstand silence call it passivity. They think it means you have nothing to say, nothing to fight for, nothing to defend. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is the weapon of the wise. Silence is the shield of the strong. Silence is the foundation of inner mastery. When toxic people attempt to provoke you, their real goal is not in the words they speak, it is in the reaction they hope to pull out of you. They crave your energy. They want to see you break. They want to feed on your anger, your defensiveness, your frustration. Because when you react, you hand them control, you hand them power, and they thrive on that power. But when you remain silent, you starve them, you deny them the oxygen they need to keep their fire alive. Suddenly, their attacks feel empty, their insults lose weight, their manipulation loses ground. Psychology confirms this. Studies on emotional regulation reveal that the ability to withhold immediate reaction increases resilience and problem-solving capacity. In simple words, those who stay silent under pressure think clearer, act smarter, and win more often. Silence is not about retreating, it is about taking the higher ground. When you refuse to react, you are not ignoring the battle. You are simply choosing the right moment to strike, if striking ever becomes necessary. The hidden power of silence is that it makes you unpredictable. Toxic people expect you to explode. They expect you to explain. They expect you to defend yourself. And when you don't, they are left in confusion. They start questioning themselves. They start doubting the effectiveness of their tactics. They lose the confidence that once made them bold. Silence turns the spotlight back on them, forcing them to confront their own emptiness. Think of it this way. Words are arrows, and silence is armor. No matter how sharp their arrows are, they cannot pierce a shield of silence. They bounce off. They lose force. And with time, the one shooting arrows realizes that they are wasting energy. Silence drains the abuser, the manipulator, the toxic soul, because it gives them nothing to grab onto. Within a single week of practicing this discipline, you will see change. You will feel lighter because you are no longer dragged into meaningless arguments. You will feel stronger because you no longer bend to emotional pressure. You will notice that people treat you differently because you radiate calm authority. Silence becomes your identity. It becomes the language of your power. And let this truth sink deep into your bones. The one who speaks less always holds more strength in the room. History remembers the silent presence of leaders more than the noise of the crowd. In moments of tension, it is the calm face, the composed posture, the unshaken voice that dominates the atmosphere. That presence does not come from shouting louder, it comes from being rooted deeper. Silence roots you, it anchors you in control. But do not mistake silence for avoidance. Silence is not running away. It is not bottling up emotions until they explode later. True silence is conscious. It is chosen. It is filled with awareness. You observe. You listen. You study the room. You see patterns others miss. You notice the cracks in the mask of toxic people. Silence sharpens your intuition, and intuition is power. This practice is not easy. The human mind is wired to defend itself. It wants to fight back when attacked. It wants to explain, to justify, to prove a point. But every time you resist that urge, you build inner strength. Every time you choose silence, you train your mind to rise above. You are not rejecting the instinct to fight. You are transforming it into discipline. And discipline is the foundation of all greatness. In silence, you discover yourself. You begin to understand what truly deserves your energy and what doesn't. You stop chasing every insult, every rumor, every opinion. You conserve your strength for what matters. And when the time comes to speak, your words carry weight. Because they are not scattered by impulse, they are sharpened by patience. Imagine this. You enter a room filled with noise, arguments, and tension. Instead of joining the chaos, you remain silent. You observe. You listen. You wait. Slowly, the noise begins to fade. Eyes turn to you because silence demands attention. The person who says nothing becomes the person everyone wants to hear from. That is the paradox. Silence is not absence, it is presence. It is not emptiness, it is power concentrated in stillness. 1 week. That is all it takes to begin seeing results. 1 week of resisting the urge to answer every provocation. 1 week of replacing reaction with silence. 1 week of building this armor. At first, it will feel unnatural, but soon it will feel like freedom. Freedom from the chains of manipulation, freedom from the exhaustion of arguments, freedom from being controlled by toxic people. And when you stand in your silence, you will notice something remarkable. The chaos around you no longer shakes you. You have become untouchable. And this transformation begins the moment you realize that silence is not emptiness. Silence is strength. Silence is your weapon. Silence is your power. Emotional detachment is freedom. Freedom begins the moment you stop giving meaning to things that do not deserve your soul. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is not a lack of love. It is not emptiness. It is the art of protecting yourself from being chained by the chaos of others. It is the decision to separate what is real from what is noise. The truth is simple. The people who hurt you the most are often the ones who know how to get inside your emotions. They press the buttons that trigger your reactions. They want you restless, unstable, and always doubting yourself. But when you master emotional detachment, their weapons turn to dust. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being controlled by every feeling. It means you no longer allow the insults of a toxic person to decide how your day unfolds. It means you no longer give your peace away as payment for their games. Imagine standing in front of someone who is shouting, accusing, insulting, trying to cut you with their words. Now imagine you are watching it like a movie on a screen. You see it, you hear it, but you are not in it. You are simply observing. That is detachment. It is the ability to see what is happening without drowning in it. Psychology reveals that detachment is one of the strongest emotional strategies for resilience. People who practice detachment have lower stress levels, stronger boundaries, and clearer thinking. Why? Because they do not waste energy on battles that do not deserve them. They understand that not every fight is worth fighting, not every comment is worth answering, and not every person is worth keeping. In truth, emotional detachment is not a wall. It is a filter. It allows what matters to stay, and it lets everything else pass through without touching you. Within a week of practicing this discipline, you will notice subtle changes. The insults that used to sting will start to sound weaker. The manipulation that once worked on you will feel transparent. The guilt that others try to place on you will no longer control you because you have built distance between your emotions and their traps, distance between your peace and their chaos. And this distance is what creates freedom. Toxic people cannot survive when you stop caring about their approval. They cannot manipulate you when you no longer crave their validation. They cannot chain you when your happiness no longer depends on their presence. Emotional detachment breaks the cycle. It tells the toxic world, you do not decide who I am. You do not decide how I feel. You do not decide how I live. That is freedom. But freedom comes with discipline. Detachment is not achieved in a single day. Your emotions will try to pull you back into old habits. You will feel the urge to react, to argue, to defend yourself. And that is when you remind yourself, nothing they say defines me. Nothing they do determines my worth. Their storm does not belong inside my mind. Every time you repeat this truth, you build your emotional armor, and every time you practice this, you reclaim your power. Think of your mind as a house. Emotional detachment is the locked door that toxic people cannot enter. They may knock, they may scream, they may try to break in, but the door stays closed. You hear the noise, but you do not let it inside. Over time, their knocking becomes weaker because they realize you are no longer answering. Detachment is the silence that drives them mad because it proves they no longer matter to you. What most people don't understand is this: detachment makes you more capable of love, not less. When you are no longer consumed by toxic attachments, you create space for healthy connections. You free yourself from the weight of carrying people who only drain you. You open your heart to relationships that bring peace, not pain. You learn to give without losing yourself, to love without being enslaved, to walk away without being broken. Detachment is not about closing your heart. It is about giving your heart to what deserves it. In just 1 week, you will feel lighter. You will wake up without the heaviness of yesterday's arguments. You will breathe deeper because your mind is no longer crowded with other people's negativity. You will notice how different the world feels when your emotions are no longer chained to toxic patterns. That lightness you feel is freedom. That calmness you carry is power. And remember this, those who cannot control their emotions will always be controlled by others. But those who master detachment become untouchable. No insult can break them. No manipulation can trap them. No toxic person can drain them. Because their emotions belong to them, and to them alone. Freedom is not found in controlling others. Freedom is found in mastering yourself. Emotional detachment is that mastery. It is the invisible strength that toxic people cannot fight. It is the unshakable calm that no storm can destroy. It is the quiet victory that begins the moment you decide, my peace is mine, and no one takes it away. The art of pausing before you react. Power is never in the first reaction. Power is in the pause. The pause is where control lives, where wisdom hides, where strength is born. The world trains you to react instantly. Toxic people rely on that impulse. They push your buttons, they trigger your emotions, they want you to respond without thinking. Because in that instant they gain control. They make you act on their terms, in their timing, under their influence. But when you master the pause, everything changes. The game shifts, the power returns to you. Think about it, how many mistakes in your life were made because you reacted too quickly? How many arguments became wars because you spoke before you thought? How many regrets came from words that left your mouth in anger only to haunt you later? Psychology proves this truth. When you pause before reacting, you give your brain the chance to shift from impulse to logic. You move from survival mode to strategy mode. And strategy always wins. Toxic people hate the pause. They expect you to explode, to argue, to shout back. They expect you to meet fire with fire. But silence, followed by stillness, confuses them. They don't know how to handle patience. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to be baited. In that pause, you become unreadable. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability is the one thing toxic people cannot control. The pause is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is awareness. It is you telling yourself, I will not let this person write my script. I will write it myself. It is you separating your emotions from their manipulation. Studies on emotional intelligence show that people who pause before reacting handle conflict better, maintain stronger relationships, and project greater authority. Why? Because they act not out of chaos, but out of clarity. When you pause, you observe, you notice their tone, you hear the words beneath their words. You see the cracks in their mask. While they try to provoke you, you are quietly studying them. And the more you see, the less power they have. Because the pause exposes what emotion hides. At first, pausing feels unnatural. Your body wants to defend. Your ego wants to strike back. Your pride wants to prove itself. But when you resist that urge, something shifts inside you. You begin to see that not every attack needs an answer. Not every insult needs a response. Not every confrontation needs your energy. The pause teaches you the beauty of restraint, and restraint is what separates strength from weakness. Imagine this moment. Someone tries to humiliate you in public. Everyone waits for your reaction. Instead of shouting back, you stay calm. You take a breath. You wait. The silence grows heavier. The crowd shifts uneasily. The one who insulted you starts to feel small under the weight of your calm. And when you finally choose to respond, if you even respond at all, your words carry a force that no impulsive shout could ever match. Because silence made them heavy. Because patience made them sharp. This is why the pause is power. It turns you from a reactor into a strategist. It takes you from being a pawn to becoming the player. Toxic people thrive on speed. They want quick arguments, quick fights, quick drama. But the pause denies them that. The pause slows the game down, and in the stillness, you are always stronger. Within 1 week of practicing the pause, you will notice transformation. Conversations that once drained you will feel easier to handle. Arguments that once consumed you will lose their fire. People will start to see you as calm, as unshakable, as someone who cannot be easily provoked. And toxic people will grow frustrated because their tricks no longer work. Every pause you take is a victory, a silent victory, a private victory. It is the kind of victory that no one claps for, but everyone respects. Because the pause is not about proving them wrong, it is about proving yourself right. It is about proving that you are no longer a slave to emotion, no longer a puppet to provocation, no longer controlled by chaos. And here is the truth. Life is a series of tests. Some come as insults, some as betrayals, some as challenges. You cannot control the tests, but you can control your response. The pause is your shield. It is the moment where you decide whether you will be ruled by impulse or guided by wisdom. And those who choose wisdom always rise above. So the next time someone tries to break you, pause. The next time someone pushes you, pause. The next time someone tries to steal your peace, pause. Because in that pause you are free. In that pause you are strong. In that pause, you hold the kind of power that cannot be shaken, cannot be stolen, and cannot be broken. The art of pausing before you react is not just a skill. It is a way of life. It is the discipline that transforms chaos into clarity. It is the difference between being consumed by fire or becoming the one who walks through it untouched. And when you learn this art, even for a single week, you will not recognize yourself. Because you will see what true power feels like, the power of control, the power of calm, the power of the pause. Boundaries without explanation. The most powerful no is the one that comes without explanation. Strength is not proven in defending your boundaries. It is proven in holding them without apology. Weak people over-explain. Weak people justify. Weak people beg others to understand. But the strong set limits, and they do so quietly. No shouting, no pleading, no need to convince. Just a firm line drawn in the sand, unshaken by pressure. Boundaries spoken without defense are the language of self-respect. Toxic people hate boundaries. They fear them, because boundaries reveal the truth they cannot accept, that they do not own you, that they do not control you, that they have no power over your choices. When you draw a boundary, you take back what they tried to steal. Your time, your energy, your freedom, and the less you explain, the stronger your boundary becomes. The moment you start justifying yourself, you give them a doorway to argue, to debate, to twist your words. But when you remain silent, when your no is final, they hit a wall they cannot climb. Psychology shows that people respect clarity more than persuasion. Boundaries that are firm, consistent, and brief are far more effective than boundaries wrapped in excuses. Think of a locked door. When someone tries to open it and finds it closed, they understand. They don't need a lecture on why it's locked. They either walk away or keep trying, but the door stays closed. That is how your boundaries must be. Quiet, firm, final. The truth is, the need to explain comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being disliked, fear of losing someone. But freedom begins when you let go of that fear. When you realize you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You don't need permission to put yourself first. You don't need approval to say no. A life without boundaries is slavery. A life with boundaries is sovereignty. Imagine someone demanding your time. They insist, they push, they guilt trip. Instead of drowning in excuses, you answer with calm strength, no, and nothing more. They wait for a reason. They expect an argument. They are ready to debate. But silence follows. The conversation ends where your boundary begins. That silence is power. It tells them, I do not owe you anything. And it forces them to face a truth that terrifies toxic people. They cannot move you. Within a week of practicing boundaries without explanation, you will notice a shift. At first, people will resist. They will push harder, test you more, try to break your resolve. But if you remain consistent, if your boundaries stand firm, they will adjust. They will learn that your no means no. They will learn that you cannot be pressured, cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken down. And those who refuse to respect your boundaries will eventually disappear. Let them. Their absence is not a loss, it is a cleansing. Boundaries are not walls built against love. They are gates that protect it. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting people. You are rejecting toxicity. You are protecting your energy so that it can be given to those who truly deserve it. Boundaries make space for peace. They make space for growth. They make space for real connection. Without them, you are consumed by the demands of others until nothing is left for yourself. Research on assertiveness proves that people who maintain strong boundaries live with less stress, higher self-esteem, and better relationships. Why? Because they do not allow resentment to build. They do not carry the silent anger of saying yes when they wanted to say no. They do not sacrifice their own well-being for the comfort of others. They understand that self-respect is the foundation of respect from others. When you respect yourself enough to set limits, the world begins to respect you too. The secret is this: boundaries must be consistent. A boundary held today and abandoned tomorrow is no boundary at all. Toxic people are patient. They test to see if you will bend. They push to see if you will crack. But consistency breaks them. Every time you reinforce your line, you send a message: I cannot be controlled. And in that message lies your freedom. Think of boundaries like armor. Without them, you walk through life exposed, vulnerable to every attack, drained by every demand. With them, you walk protected. Attacks still come, but they do not pierce you. Demands still rise, but they do not control you. Your armor of boundaries makes you untouchable. 1 week of silent, unapologetic boundaries will transform you. You will feel the weight lift from your shoulders. You will notice that your time feels like yours again. You will see people treating you differently because respect grows where weakness once lived. And most importantly, you will look at yourself with new eyes. Because every no you give without explanation is a reminder that you value yourself. Never forget this. You do not have to explain your worth. You do not have to defend your peace. You do not have to justify your boundaries. A strong boundary is not spoken loudly, it is lived consistently. And when you master this truth, you become untouchable to toxic people. They will not understand your silence, but they will respect it. Because the strongest power you will ever hold is the quiet authority of boundaries without explanation, the discipline of self-respect. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. Self-respect is the foundation of power, the silent signal that tells the world how to treat you. Without it, you are vulnerable. Without it, you bend too easily. Without it, you give away pieces of yourself until nothing remains. Toxic people can smell a lack of self-respect. They are drawn to it like predators to weakness. They test your limits, push your patience, and feed on your insecurities. But when you carry self-respect with discipline, you become untouchable. You become someone who cannot be played with, cannot be drained, cannot be disrespected without consequence. Self-respect is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is the way you hold yourself. It is the way you speak to yourself. It is the way you protect your time, your energy, your body, and your mind. It is discipline because it requires consistency. You cannot demand respect from others if you do not practice it every single day in the smallest choices. How you dress, how you eat, how you speak, how you let people treat you, all of it is a mirror of the respect you have for yourself. Psychology makes it clear, people with high self-respect are less likely to fall into toxic relationships, less likely to tolerate abuse, and more likely to demand fairness. Why? Because they know their value. They are not desperate for approval. They are not chasing validation. They are not willing to shrink themselves to fit into someone else's world. And that is why toxic people avoid them. They cannot manipulate someone who already knows their worth. Self-respect is shown in boundaries, but it goes deeper. It is in the way you talk to yourself when you fail. Do you tear yourself apart, or do you stand tall and learn? It is in the way you manage your time. Do you waste it on people who drain you, or do you invest it where it brings growth? It is in the way you accept love. Do you settle for crumbs, or do you wait for a table worthy of your soul? Every answer reveals the level of respect you carry for yourself. But here is the truth. Self-respect is hard. It is uncomfortable. It requires saying no when it would be easier to say yes. It requires walking away when your heart still wants to stay. It requires choosing discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, and long-term value over short-term pleasure. That is why most people don't practice it. But those who do are transformed. They stop being followers of other people's opinions and become leaders of their own lives. Within 1 week of practicing disciplined self-respect, you will notice change. You will stand differently. Your tone will shift. Your eyes will carry strength. People will feel it before you speak. They will sense that you are not the same as before. Toxic people who once had easy access to you will grow uncomfortable. They will test you less because they know the game is over, and those who truly value you will rise to meet the new standard you set. Self-respect is a language that needs no words. It is the way you walk into a room with quiet confidence. It is the way you no longer chase those who ignore you. It is the way you do not tolerate insults disguised as jokes. It is the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. Because the truth is this, the world only mirrors what you reflect. If you carry yourself as if you are valuable, the world will respond with value. If you carry yourself as if you are disposable, the world will treat you like you are. Think of it this way: every time you say yes when you mean no, you chip away at your respect. Every time you accept treatment beneath your worth, you lower your value in your own eyes. And once you stop respecting yourself, others follow. But the opposite is also true. Every time you demand better, every time you refuse to accept less, every time you stand tall even when it is difficult, you strengthen your respect. And the stronger it grows, the harder it is for anyone to shake you. Toxic people cannot survive in the presence of someone with self-respect. They will call you arrogant. They will label you selfish. They will say you are too much. But these are just masks for their fear, because what they see is someone they cannot control, someone they cannot manipulate, someone they cannot break, and that terrifies them. Self-respect requires solitude. You must be willing to walk alone rather than walk with those who disrespect you. You must be willing to lose people who don't value you in order to make room for those who do. You must be willing to choose peace over approval, discipline over comfort, and growth over fear. This is not easy, but it is the only path to freedom. 1 week. That is all it takes to feel the difference. 1 week of saying no to what drains you. 1 week of treating yourself as if your life matters. 1 week of carrying yourself with discipline and strength. By the end of that week, you will see it in the mirror. You will hear it in your voice. You will feel it in your soul. Because self-respect changes everything. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how others see you. It changes the entire direction of your life. Never forget this truth. Respect is not asked for, it is commanded. It is commanded by the way you live, by the standards you hold, by the choices you make every single day. And when you master the discipline of self-respect, you will never beg for respect again, because the world has no choice but to give it to you. The strength of emotional intelligence is not loud, yet it is one of the greatest forms of power a human being can hold. It is the silent force that separates the weak from the resilient, the reactive from the composed, the insecure from the unshakable. While the world teaches us to value status, possessions, and appearances, emotional intelligence teaches us something far greater: the ability to master ourselves. And when you master yourself, no one can master you. Emotional intelligence is not about ignoring your emotions, it is about understanding them. It is about recognizing that your feelings, no matter how intense, are signals, not commands. Anger, fear, jealousy, even sadness. These emotions may rise, but they do not have to control your actions. Most people are prisoners of their impulses. They speak before thinking. They act before reflecting. They destroy relationships, opportunities, and even their own peace, all because they lack the discipline of awareness. Emotional intelligence is the cure to that cycle. At its core, emotional intelligence is the skill of pausing before reacting. It is the sharp awareness that tells you when someone is trying to provoke you, and the strength to remain calm instead of giving them the satisfaction of your chaos. This is not weakness, this is control, and control is power. Toxic people thrive on emotional reactions. They feed on anger, insecurity, and defensiveness. But when you respond with clarity, with calmness, with grounded strength, you strip them of their weapon. You take away the very fuel that keeps them alive. Research in psychology shows that individuals with higher emotional intelligence build stronger relationships, navigate stress more effectively, and are more successful in leadership and personal growth. Why? Because they understand what others fail to see, that emotions, when left unmanaged, can become traps. But when managed, they become tools. Imagine walking into a storm and knowing you cannot stop the wind, but you can adjust your sail. That is emotional intelligence. You don't fight what is outside of you. You master what is inside of you. Self-awareness is the foundation. It begins with noticing what triggers you. The words, the actions, the silence, the rejection, whatever it may be. Emotional intelligence asks you to stop and recognize your emotional state before it turns into a reaction. When you see yourself clearly, you begin to see others more clearly too. You realize that many of their actions have nothing to do with you, but everything to do with their own wounds, insecurities, and fears. That understanding frees you from unnecessary battles. The second pillar is self-regulation. It is the ability to take that awareness and shape your response. Not suppression, but regulation. Suppression is pretending emotions don't exist. Regulation is choosing how to use them. Anger, when regulated, becomes